Cyril was a rough diamond. He was a money lender in the East End of London, you know, a loan shark. And he was really hard on the round, not the sort of person you'd like to have call on you. There were times even when he carried a gun. Of course, when I met him, I was a young single mum. I had 2 children, Peter and Dennis. And, you know, life was exciting. I thought it was wonderful that he should take notice of me.
I have to say that for the first 25 years, I suppose, of my life, I gave no real thought or consideration as to what it all meant, why we were all here, what the meaning of life was. As far as I was concerned, it was for one thing really, that was for getting through, and also for enjoying it as much as possible while I was here.
Football has always been a big part of my life. It's a game I love and was always more than a hobby. That's why I was devastated when nearly 3 years ago I suffered an injury that quite literally nearly cost me my life. My leg was broken after a particularly nasty tackle. The bloke who did it just seemed to be out to kick people. I never received an apology from the bloke, and my life became a bit of a living nightmare.
I was born in India into an Orthodox Brahmin caste family, and I came to Britain when I was 9 years old. When we came to this country, I was of course brought up as a Hindu by my parents. At home we had worship, we had prayer, and we would also visit the temple.
My oldest son turned 3. Things began to change. New Year's Day dawned, and as is my way, because I like to look forward and not back, I decided to pack away the Christmas tree. So I took the balls off and dusted them and packed them away. And in doing so, I started to think about the futility of it all. Had I really spent 6 months preparing for something which was essentially just one day? Seeing me lost in thought, my husband asked me what I was thinking. And spontaneously I said, there's got to be more to life than this. I'm going back to church.
We all thought, you know, we've got science, we don't need God. God is for the wimps, God is for the feeble-minded, etc. Because we've got science and that will solve everything for us. And so there was a real pressure to just, you know, to abandon God and to become an atheist. I'm an atheist and I'm proud of it. But inwardly, if I'm honest, you know, I was probably a bit confused. And it was with those kinds of feelings that I went up to university to study chemistry.
When I was 15, I realised that life was unfair. My dad had a stroke when I was 1. I lived on a council estate. The government paid for every school meal I had, every school uniform, and the one holiday. And I suddenly realised that I was angry. Life was not going to treat me the way it treated my parents. I decided I was going to do something about it. So I joined a group of guys called a gang, and this is what happened. I suddenly realised you can make a lot of money by doing a little bit of work. So me and my friends started nicking from shops, and then we'll sell them on so that we can buy the things that we needed.
The money was out of this world. I didn't see daylight hardly at all actually, I was only working at night. As a result, my wife didn't see me either. And after 2 or 3 years, my marriage virtually foundered. She left me and started divorce proceedings. It honestly didn't bother me. So for the next 3 or 4 years, the life I led was absolutely brilliant.
I was born into a Christian family. My dad and mom are Christians, and I was christened when I was a baby. And I had a very casual relationship with God. I prayed when I was in trouble or when I felt like, and I thought, you know, that's fine. I was happy with that sort of relationship. I didn't want to get too close to God.
The anger and resentment I felt was eating me up like a cancer. The doctor could not get on top of it, and amputation became a real possibility. I missed my family. I had 3 children at home. My son celebrated his first birthday while I was in hospital. I wanted to be there with him. My wife would come and see me. I would hardly talk to her. I was a miserable, depressed, horrible person. How could things have become so out of my control?
It was all alien to me. I didn't know what it was, what was happening even. I mean, no one had ever been religious in our family. What was going on? I don't know. Anyway, he asked me if I'd go along to church. But I said, no, I can't, Dennis. I'm a heavy smoker. How could I do that?
Funny enough, I was going to church every Sunday, but it was making no difference. I brought up in a good home. My parents had values, but it made no difference.
Then one day, I was visited by my good friend Ed. He saw the state I was in physically and mentally. He prayed with me and he left me a New Testament to read. As I opened it, I saw at the front a page where you could look up suitable verses for the situation you were in. I looked up contemplating revenge.
He used to tear up my books, tear up my Bible. He'd taunt me and say all horrible things like, you know, it's a load of rubbish and you're mad, you ought to be put away. It was a nightmare, honestly. I just didn't know what way to turn.
So a friend of mine drove me home in his car, and as we're driving, we get all the sirens, all the blue and everything, and we realise, boy, we're close. So the guy drives me home. But as I'm going home, I'm thinking to myself, this ain't the way you want to live your life. This is not the way you were taught. This is not what your parents valued. This is not what you value, Dave. You're just doing it because you're doing it.
And it was about 4 or 5 a.m, I guess. I'd finished work, I'd been invited back to this party. And I was sitting there, and without going into detail, it was all going on all around me, you can imagine. And I looked around and I thought, there just has to be more to it than this. There just has to be more to life than this. And the life I've been leading for the last 3 or 4 years. Because I just wasn't being fulfilled.
I've always really believed that there's a God, but somebody who kick-started the universe and then pretty much left us to our own devices. So the following Sunday, we all went to church. There was nothing attractive about the building. There was no stained glass windows, no heavenly choir. It was just 6 people singing to a slightly out-of-tune piano. So there's actually nothing in there that could possibly have attracted me, and yet I had this feeling that I was coming home.
I've never experienced anything like that before. It was amazing. And I just knew that God was real. I knew that he loved me. I knew he wanted to forgive me. And I just had to go forward. I had to know more. And so that's what I did.
I slept all night, and when I awoke, I had this feeling that a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders.
I came to the conclusion, yeah, there has to be, because it's easier to believe in God than not to believe in one.
And I began to feel a sense of peace that I didn't know that I had until I had it in abundance. And I began to realise over a period of time that God isn't some austere being who kick-started the universe. He's actually still up to his neck in it, with us.
All the shame's gone, the anger's gone. I still face the challenges like the next man, like you do. But when I face them, God's on my side, and that makes a difference.
And that was an amazing thing to hear, that we could actually be friends with God, we could be friends through Jesus.